Hello and welcome back to the Adventures in Marketing podcast. I am your host, Gwen Montoya. I am so excited that you are joining me today. If this is your first time, thank you for giving it a listen. If you are a returning listener, thank you so much. It means the world to me that these podcasts are helpful to you. That's why I make them. So thank you so much for listening, and I am really excited to jump into this topic. So I want to talk about what it means to wear all the hats. And I know that most of you know what I mean, because most of you are doing that yourselves. You're wearing all the hats, right? Most of my clients are small business owners. So they are either doing it themselves or they have a very small team. Or even if they have a larger team, there's still a lot that they take on. And there's a lot that they have to manage for their business. And I wanted to talk about that today because one of the things that has come up in some spaces that I participate in is this idea that there's so much to do. There's never enough time to do it all. And yeah, when you're running everything, right, it's going to feel that way. So I've been in the marketing world for over 20 years. And before that, I worked with small businesses primarily. And I'm a third generation business owner. So before we get into this, let's look at the roles that you probably have as a business owner, right? So your finances, right? So that's your bookkeeping, your taxes, your expenses, your tracking, your inventory, all of those things, right? And then let's move on to marketing, which is, of course, my wheelhouse. That's going to be, social media and your website and your blogging and your email marketing and SEO, if that's important to you. And maybe you are making video also, because in this day and age, even small business owners also have to have a video producer hat, right? Like that's just kind of the way it goes, which is also video editing. And then we have branding, of course. And this might be something that you have hired out or something that you are doing on your own. But that's going to be your graphic design and your photo editing, right? If you take your own photos, photography, you're now a photographer also as a small business owner. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? So it's a lot. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, you absolutely have a reason to feel overwhelmed. That's a lot. And that's one of the things that people get stuck on is, where do I go next? And one of the episodes that you can go back and listen to is my flowchart that I created, which is a really great way to sort of rethink how you think about what you need to do next instead of feeling like you have to do all of it, because we actually cannot go in 10 directions at the same time and get all of those things done. That's just not possible. Unfortunately, in this reality, we cannot do that. Maybe in a different dimension we can. But here we are on Earth, and we have to do things the slow way, the one at a time way. So go back and listen to that other episode. It's called Gwen's Flowchart, I think is what I called it. And there's a downloadable so that you can kind of print out a version for yourself to practice on. I developed it with my Adventures in Marketing membership group. They told me it was helpful, so I wanted to share it in a wider way. So that is there for you also. In this vast sea of choices and to-do lists, where do we start? Well, go listen to that podcast. But then once you start, you have to keep going. There is no piece of marketing or running your business that is done once and you never have to do it again. And I think that some of the overwhelm that comes up is from thinking about something like blogging, right? I need to write a blog post, or I need to send an email to my list. And we think of it as being a single task. And that single task can feel really overwhelming. And sometimes the reason that it is overwhelming is because we are not thinking about how many subtasks, how many little subpaths there are that we have to do in order to finish that email or that blog post. So let's say, for example, that you are going to write a blog post. Well, first you have to have an idea. You've got to start with the idea. And then you have to write it. And then it's going to need photos, because if you've listened to me or any other SEO person talk, you know that your blog posts need photos. And it's going to need headers, and it's going to need white space. And you have to figure out what that looks like and how that is going to lay out on your website. And then you probably need to check the mobile version also, because you want to make sure that's right. You also have to add any SEO or photo optimizing options to it, which is separate from writing it or editing it or thinking about it or adding images. And then you have to upload it or publish it, especially if you write it in one space and you move it over to your blog post. Then you have to, now that you've written it, then you have to share it, and you have to decide where you're going to share it. Are you going to share it on social media? Are you going to share it in an email? Are you going to make a video talking about it? Are you going to do all three? And if so, when and how and where, right? It's so much. And then at the end of all of that, even after you share it the first time, you still need to promote it more than once, right? Like, why spend all of these steps? Why take all of this time and only use it once and only do one thing with it. So you have to repurpose it. You have to promote it. You have to reuse it in different ways, which then takes that single, I need to write a blog post, and you realize there's actually 12 different tasks. And then when we expand it to more of our marketing, the same thing goes for creating a social media post. You have to have the idea, and then you have to find the image or the link, and you have to write about what that is, and then you have to post it, and then respond to comments, and then figure out how to turn this one piece of content into something else. And that happens with every single piece of our business. It is not just a single task in our business. There is no single task in our business. So if you are feeling overwhelmed and frustrated and feeling like you can't get started, part of that reason might be is that you're not breaking down things into enough steps so that it feels doable to you. So here are some ways to fix that. First of all, think about what you don't need to do. If you are not blogging now and you are not sure how it can implement in your business or whether you need to, and you are swamped with everything else, then put blogging on the back burner for 6 months and revisit it in 6 months. Or if you are creating a ton of social media content, but you're not really getting traction, but you do get a lot of traction in your email, then keep a presence on social media, because I think that we kind of all need a presence on social media, but focus more on your email, because that if that's where your money is coming from, then focus on that. Which brings me to my next question, and the thing I always ask people when I first start working with them: where did your last clients come from? The last 5 people, where did they come from? How did you find them? How did they interact with you? How did they sign up? All of those processes. Think about how you can replicate that. So for me, a lot of my clients come from referrals and networking. So I know that if I am networking and staying visible, then I get those referrals. That's how that works for me. Your business may be different. So think about where your clients come from and then do more of that. And I know it sounds so simple, but it does actually work. It is actually really effective. We also need to think about what you like to do. We also need to think about what you actually like to do. In a podcast episode I just recorded, I talked about Instagram Reels, and a lot of people hate Instagram Reels. They do not want to do them. If you do not see a value to Instagram Reels, even after you've talked to me and we've talked about your options and your strategy options and how to work it in, and you're like, no, I don't want to do Reels, they will make me sad if I have to do Reels, then don't do Reels, but plan on showing up more in another space to make up for that. So that is another way to think about it, is what do you like to do? Where do you like to show up? And how can you do more of that in a way that feels really good and authentic to you? And this goes across all of your business things, right? If you do not like posting on social media and you have enough of a business to fund paying for a social media manager, then take that off of your plate so that you can focus on the things that you really love. Same with bookkeeping, same with taxes, same with house cleaning. Like there's so many, I've talked about this before, there's so many ways to outsource that can take pressure off of you so that you can focus on the things that you really love and the things that you're really good at. Now, if you're just starting out, you don't really have that option, in which case I would say really focus on the things that actually generate movement in your business versus chasing all the shiny things. And I do talk about this in my flowchart episode. I love shiny things. I think they're awesome, but I think that they have a time and a place, and we have to know what that time and place is, or we will run around chasing shiny things, which is not as effective as maybe we would like it to be for our business. And then going back to setting yourself up for success. Because when, like I said, if we write a blog post, it's not just writing a blog post. There's 12 subtasks or more, depending on how finicky you get about what you need to do. If you feel like writing a blog post takes forever, part of that might be because you're trying to cram too many things together. And I think one of the things that happens is that we don't separate something that really needs to be separated. We don't separate the idea creation part with the creation part, with the promotion part, with the other things that need to happen. So one of the things that might help you if you are feeling stuck when it comes to social media and you are staring at this blank cursor and you don't know what to post, step away from the computer. I mean, I think we all need to do that more anyway, but step away from the computer, grab a pen or talk to yourself, record your voice, and just think about some things that you could talk about. Don't try to write it. Don't try to make it perfect. Just get the ideas out of your head. I'm a huge pen and paper person, so that's where I go when I need to think of ideas. So I would start there. And then think about the ones that are going to be most effective. What are the ones that in the past, when you understand your own business, when you look at what does well, what of those ideas can you use because it works for your business, because it works for your audience, because your audience responds to it. And then let it be. Go back to it another day to do the creation part. And then if you get stuck, let it be and go back to it another day to look for photos or to do the SEO optimization piece of a blog post or to grammar check or whatever things that you need to break down into steps. Don't feel like this has to all be done in one day at one time, because it absolutely does not have to. That is one of the reasons people say batch recording is really helpful, or batch whatever, because if you spend 10 minutes looking for photos, it will save you time from having to stop your flow when you are creating a social media post to write the content and then stop what you're doing and then go find a photo, or to write all of the ideas out that you have and then create posts from them all in one place, instead of trying to go from start to finish, from idea to creation to publishing. Give yourself space, give yourself grace, give yourself some breathing room so that you have time to percolate some ideas. I think as business owners, we tend to have a lot of ideas, right? And there are so many things that we want to do, and it is so easy to get distracted and run off in different directions. But if we're spending all of our time running around in different directions, we're not spending time growing our business, which is what I like to help people do. And I think it's probably what you want to do too, right? Like, you're listening to this podcast because you have a business, because you are interested in having some ease and some gentleness around your marketing and making it not scary and having some fun with it. I hope that's what I like to do, is make marketing not scary. So hopefully this has been helpful. If you have any questions, my email is gwen@gwenmontoya.com. I would love to hear from you. If this was helpful, please let me know. If you learned something from this episode, if it made you think about something in a different way, I would love a review, or share it with a friend. Don't keep me a secret. I would love that. Or if you're looking for some ongoing marketing support where you can just come and ask me questions when you have them, instead of hoping that I do a podcast episode about it, go ahead and join my Adventures in Marketing group. It's $99 a month. We have prompts and resources, and there's a live call every single week where you can ask me questions and get feedback. And I would love to have you join me.